All right, all set?
Yes.
Great. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Welcome to this Tableau CRM meetup. My name's Todd Brandell. I'm the Vice President of Product at Gobi. For those of you who don't know Saintani, who's very active in the TCRM community, Gobi is a ESG platform where we help our clients understand and track their ESG metrics better. ESG is becoming a bigger and more widely understood word, at least in the US and Europe. It's very big. It stands for environmental, social, and governance. We focus very heavily on the real estate sector and helping people understand their energy consumption and how to reduce. We're doing a lot of stuff with the Paris Climate Accords and SASB accounting and all sorts of these different frameworks and metrics that come up to report on energy, report on sustainability, governance, those types of things. So we are extremely heavy TCRM users. Our entire Salesforce community is essentially built around TCRM. And Saintani is our head TCRM developer and knows everything and anything there is to know as far as I'm concerned about the tool. So thank you so much for joining. We have some special guests from Salesforce today. They're going to lead a panel discussion. So appreciate their time with Anirudh and Arthur, also Jeff Rothman on the line. So yeah, I think we can go ahead and take it away.
Okay, thanks, Todd. So I am going to share my screen. I don't think I need to. So welcome everyone. And Arthur, Anirudh, please introduce yourselves.
I can go first. Hey, all. I'm Anirudh Sridhar. I'm with the Tableau CRM, formerly IMS Analytics product team. And Saintani, thank you for having me over again. This is, I believe, my second time here. I know I'm standing among veterans here. Jeff Rothman, Ed, has probably been to multiple of these, but super excited to come back. We're going to be talking about dashboards. Definitely one of my things I want to do is to kind of show you all this stuff. You know, Salesforce has 3 releases every year. There's a lot of stuff that goes out, and I just wanted to kind of show what all that we had recently released, and hopefully have time to get some feedback on some of the future roadmap looking stuff that we're talking about.
Awesome. Arthur?
Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me properly. As I was saying earlier, my internet connection is not the best, so fingers crossed everything goes well smoothly and I'm able to demo. But I'm product manager for Tableau CRM as well, in charge of more the dashboard building area, which is why I'm here. And very thankful for your time today. Super excited as well to be sharing some of the latest features that we've been building, and some of the coolest things that you can do with it as well. So happy to be here.
Jeff? You might be muted.
I know Jeff's never silent, is he?
So before we start the panel, there's a forward-looking statement which is mandatory because there might be areas that Arthur and Anirudh covered today which will go into the future. So I think it's, from what I have heard, it is said that please make all your purchasing decisions based on what is presently provided in Salesforce. So having said that, we are going to start the panel. Jeff, you want to introduce yourself just in case? We still can't hear him. Okay, we are going to start with the first question. Okay, all about dashboards. So when we think about dashboards, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Anirudh? And for everyone else, you can just post what comes to your mind. Please post your answers. We'll see what comes up.
Yeah. So in general, when I'm thinking about dashboards, you know, I kind of see like grids of just charts, right? Grids of visualizations, a rectangular grid. And that's usually what I've been accustomed to seeing. And that's one of the things at Tableau CRM. What we're trying to strive with the dashboard platform is to make something that's actually flexible, fluid. It doesn't have to look like a grid of visualizations. It's just something that has like a rich set of elements, etc., all filled in. So when I used to think of dashboards, it was like grid of visualizations, rectangular, square, maybe a filter bar at the top. And now it's more along the line of creating like app-like experiences.
Awesome. Arthur?
I think to me it's about, and I think Priyanka said it very well in the chat. It's about giving a great story with your data and find the best way of telling that story through beautiful visualizations.
Perfect. Thank you. Next one, what type of questions should one ask before starting to work with dashboards? Any dashboard.
This is actually a good one. Of course, you can probably have like an entire presentation, and we do have a user experience team at Tableau CRM who is definitely very passionate about this. They're thinking about it from kind of like, they have like some processes in place which we follow even with other roles, even with product management, things like design thinking. And really part of that, I mean, I can't really go into details into any of those, but I'm happy to share links to some of these resources that you might find helpful. I can share that with Say and Tani after. But it's really about thinking from the end user perspective always. First is to think about what are they looking for? What are they going to do with that data? What kind of actions? What kind of business metrics do we want to move? How are they going to use the data that's in their dashboard to move it? So always thinking from the end user perspective first, thinking about how they're going to use it, and that is at a very high level. Eventually, when you start boiling it down into the pieces such as dashboard design, data design, how is your data being designed? How can it be designed so that it's clean, it's scalable, it can be maintainable? And then finally, coming down to the dashboard design as well, is what's the best way to show it? What are the capabilities in the dashboarding platform that can support? Can we use any principles such as progressive disclosure? We can make performant dashboards, things like that. So it's really, I would say, starts from the end user. And that would give the more context we have from the end user, what do you want to do, and is to remain iterative and get as much feedback as possible.
Awesome. Arthur, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to top it. Anirudh covered like pretty much every aspect, and it's a really good answer he gave. But yeah, I think like as he said, it's really critical to think of the end user and what are the questions you want to answer when someone lands on the dashboard, right? Like what are they looking for, and trying to make that as easy to find on the dashboard. Just making sure like they're able to easily identify the key factors or the things they're going to be able to switch and toggle from, and make it as easy as possible to understand the data and see what's going on when they're looking at this. So yeah, just what are the questions, and then what's the goal of the dashboard that you're building? What are you trying to achieve with it? But yeah, it's all around the same point.
Great. Last one before we jump into everything about Tableau CRM dashboards. What are the main characteristics of a useful dashboard?
I think you're muted, Anirudh, if you were talking.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can get a crisp answer here, but there's really a lot of facets behind this. And I'm sure the collective wisdom of folks who are actually in this room probably goes a lot more than what I can think of. Facets of a good dashboard. Let's see. I mean, Arthur mentioned things about being able to answer the questions that the user has. We want to think about all the forms that a user is accessing this dashboard with. So making sure that, if someone's accessing on a desktop versus on a mobile, it kind of scales to all of that. Again, a dashboard, the most important thing is trust in the numbers that the dashboard presents. If that is not accurate, then it's very easy to lose trust, and then your end users will probably question whatever is on the dashboard. So that's why data quality, cleaning the data, making sure all that is very accurate is important, I believe. Performance is one, just like if you have a slow loading website, your user's not going to use it. The same, I would say, with a dashboard. If it contains critical enough information, maybe users are willing to wait a few more seconds, but always keeping performance in mind as well. Those are some of the things I can think of. There's probably more. I'll defer to Arthur and other folks. And thank you for what I'm hearing on chat as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think to me it's really like easy to understand, to consume, and to use. Like, and those three aspects are really critical, right? Like being able to just like the way you build your dashboards, you want to make sure that when the end user lands on this page, they have a comprehensive understanding of the data, and they have a way to tell, like, all right, what am I looking at? What am I trying to answer? What are the answers am I going to be able to find using the different interactions that are offered to me, right? What are the elements I can click on? And finding the best way to consume this data and drive the exploration through a great process. So whether it is, as you said, like through progressive disclosure, and yeah, like I think like the aspects of making it as beautiful as you can, but also as easy to use, whether it is mobile, whether it is desktop, having like the best layout possible for each of those tools.
I have kind of related question. Like, I suppose the answer is going to be, it depends, but I'll throw it out there anyway. When you're thinking about dashboard design, are you thinking of trying to communicate to the user, basically, here is what you need to be paying attention to, or here's what you need to know? Or are you thinking of as, here is a tool that allows you to figure out what you need to be paying attention to or what you need to know? It's a subtle difference. Does that make sense?
It does.
It does.
Arthur, you have any thoughts here?
I mean, I do. I think as you said, like the right answer is definitely it depends. It depends on like also the end user that the dashboard you're building it for, because you have, like, to me, you really have different types of end users, right? Like there's some that might be very familiar with the tools already, and they've got training, and they know, like they kind of know, like they're able to easily identify buttons and interactions, and they know. And I think like it's also a learning process. I think definitely like the first answer that you gave around like being able then to easily identify is definitely like a great first step. I would definitely like, you know, landing pages is something we see often for customers. I think your landing page should just have like all the easy to consume informations, and you should have all the answers to your main questions there, right? And it's a critical aspect. And I think like the further you go away from this landing page, the more you give this progressive disclosure, this ability to drive exploration, and you discover how much the tool is here to provide all those answers, but you have the capability, it gives you the capabilities to find those answers. So I think it's definitely a mix of both.
Yep. So almost the concept of like the executive summary or the abstract of a paper behind it.
For sure.
Yeah. And if I may just add a few more thoughts there, and I've seen basically examples of both of these styles being used effectively. And for some, it's more about, let's say, if you had a dashboard that's embedded on your homepage for your Salesforce user, then it could either just be a landing page that takes you to more information, or I've seen some that are very focused on tasks that they need to do and the data that they need to do use to get that done. So for example, it could be very focused on like, hey, maybe these are like the white space analysis accounts that you can focus on for that day, versus I've seen other dashboards which are a little more flexible. It kind of gives you a very aggregated view and lets the user filter on to what they want to do. They usually use pages to maybe fork them out into like a white space analysis, or like, these are the cases that I need to focus on. These are the outstanding tasks, etc. So it's been a bit of both. Like you said, yeah, it is. We've seen success with both. Just depends on what works best for your user feedback. Hopefully it drives a lot of this.
So thank you, Arthur and Anirudh. That was really insightful. I knew a few. I definitely didn't know all of these. So thank you. Now we are going to dive into everything about Tableau CRM dashboards. So let's start with Arthur. I'll start with a general design guideline and best practices when it comes to Tableau CRM. We talked at a high level about dashboards in general, but what to be done and what are the design guidelines we should keep in mind, and what are the best practices for Tableau CRM based dashboards?
I think like there's definitely one aspect we mentioned a bit earlier is identifying like, and this is something we do see, but I think there's can be a better use of it, is identifying what are the end users going to be consuming the dashboard on. Is it mobile? Is it iPad? Is it desktop? Right? Like, and this is like the very first step on like because it will influence and impact greatly how the dashboard will look, and also how easily it will be to consume. So to me, that's definitely like one of the first steps, and adapting the layout of your dashboards to this device, whatever device it is, and then definitely trying to make it as clear as possible, as descriptive, especially. This is something that we see a lot, where like one of our most used widgets is the text widget, and there's a really good reason for it. Is because it allows you to give descriptions of what data are people seeing, right? And I think that it's something we see a lot. It's something people do a lot, and there's a good reason for it, because you want to make sure that whatever data you're showing, people are able to understand it. And so giving a brief description of it is useful. I think the use of color, just making sure that you have like a good contrast between your different elements on your dashboards is critical. Spacing is very important as well. So just making sure that you leave enough space, but not too much in between the different widgets or charts that you have, and being conscious of, you don't want to be showing tables and tables of data, of raw data, right? It's not easy to consume. People will just be like scrolling forever to find the answer that they're looking for. It's definitely not the best experience. So you want to find the right balance of a descriptive enough, like text, and then easy to understand, like already filtered down charts, and then like being able to use pages to provide more details about those things, and then this is when you can bring in tables. But yeah, just making great use of all the different widgets we have across the table, I think it's really a good design principle.
Yep. Thank you. So moving on, you spoke about the different elements of chart, balance between the chart and text widgets and tables and the different types of other widgets that are available, the descriptions, the elements, and all. So Anirudh, one of the most important and I think heavily used features of Tableau CRM is actions. So anything new coming to actions? How should one use actions? What should be the goal when using actions?
Yeah, and maybe, is it okay if I do some screen sharing?
Sure, go ahead.
Awesome. So let me go. Is there? Yeah, there you go. Trying to find my browser screen. Right. Could you confirm, Santani, if you can see my screen?
Yes.
It's okay? Okay, all right, awesome. So absolutely, when it comes to dashboard, so, we've been talking about how, hey, let's present actionable insights to our end users. And, for Tableau CRM, it's like presenting those actionable insights right where your end user is in their workflow. And there's been a narrative around, hey, it's actionable insights, but it's not just descriptive or looking at what's happened in the past, but what we can do in the future, prescriptive. But then another element of this is it's not just about actionable insights, it's about the actions themselves. In the end, you want to make it easy for these users to be able to take actions on whatever these insights are. And that's why for Tableau CRM, most of you will be aware about record actions, which is the ability to take actions on a record that is directly within a Tableau CRM asset, like from a dashboard. Like in this example, I have a dashboard that's embedded, and you kind of look at the aggregated view at the top. Eventually, you go down to that record level detail here, and at this point, maybe at this record is where you want to take that action. So Tableau CRM makes it really easy with the help of record actions to allow you to quickly either get context on that record by straight away opening up that record with a single click, or you can take further actions on these. Now, these are all of the actions that have been exposed on that record page in Salesforce. This could also be used to trigger flows. So that really results in some interesting use cases as well. So this is what we've had for a while, which is just the ability to take record actions. Now, in the last few releases, we've actually done quite a bit on making these actions faster to access, being able to support a lot more use cases. So I'm going to show you a little bit of what that is. So the first thing you'll notice on here is that now I can actually trigger an action by simply clicking on the table cell. And that's what we call one-click table actions. Before, you had to kind of hover over a row and click on this. But now you can actually configure or take an action simply by clicking on this. So in this example, I'm able to quickly open this record just by clicking on it. And what I'm going to show you is go into the details a bit more very quickly. So we call this one-click actions. These can be enabled on tables, and it's really easy. My call to action here for anyone listening would be that this involves not modifying any queries. You don't have to move your widgets around. So it's really easy to just enable this and hopefully get value for your users. So in this example, if I click on this opportunity name, it just opens it up with one click. But we've added a certain level of configurability so that, let's say you don't actually want it to open the record, you can actually click on it and that opens up the record action menu. So you don't have the icon anymore, and this may be a little bit more discoverable for your users. So that can actually be configured, whether you want the click to open up the record or open up the menu. And it's not just open records, you can actually define the click to take any of these default actions. So in this case, what I've done is I've kind of created an action column and used a image URL to kind of render it as a icon here in a table. And clicking this will actually trigger the offer discount flow. So it doesn't have to be the open record action. It can also be any of the other actions that are there. So in this way, you're not just able to get more record context, but also affect action quickly with one click. So these are on tables. This is already in production as of Winter 21.
So Anirudh, what you're showing regarding the buttons, so you can just go there and say that, say the amount for the opportunity was really high. You can go and say that really it was not fat fingered, but it was really that high using that single action.
The action can actually trigger anything. So it's up to you to define what that action is, but absolutely with that use case, what you could do is you can actually use it to maybe show like a modal with more details on what actually happened in this opportunity, or you can actually just go straight away and maybe you've already done your analysis about this table and you're very certain about the kind of action you want to take. So the analysis is actually about this table, and on this you can just say that, okay, now I have all these opportunities, I'm just going to like go ahead and perform an action, and one of that could be updating a discount on all of these records.
Awesome. So we are getting real good feedback from one-click actions. I think people are saying that it is a great feature. So congrats.
Awesome. So, and this is one of a few other things that are on action. So let me just quickly go through that, which is another piece is, let me have all these dashboards. So another improvement that we made was these actions had to be enabled at the dataset level. So a admin or a dataset owner had to go and edit the dataset XMD. And that's where you would configure these actions. But what we've done in recently is to allow you to configure these actions at the asset level. And what that means is anyone who has the authority to create the dashboard or edit the dashboard can now define these actions. And we've kind of made it data agnostic as well. So in this example, on the right, I actually am using a Salesforce Direct query. And for the folks who don't know what Salesforce Direct is, it actually allows you to query Salesforce records live. It is not querying the data set that's shown on the left. Instead, this is querying Salesforce directly. And you can see when I hover over, I still see the record actions menu. So I can click on that. Now I can start defining record actions on my non-Tableau CRM data sources. And how I've done this is that I can simply go to the dashboard. I'm editing this in Explorer. And I simply have to hover over the pill that I want to define the actions on. And we now have a new menu item called Configure Actions. And once you click that, it shows you a very familiar experience that you might be aware of when you're defining the action at the dataset. Only now you can actually do it in the query. So you don't have to hard code it in the dataset. If someone wants to do either a one-off action on a dashboard, or if they just don't have access to that dataset, you can now do this in the asset.
This is an incredible solution. Solves a lot of our problems and should be solving more problems for people.
Awesome. So we definitely wanted to we wanted this feature. Hopefully, it opens up the ability to configure actions to more folks, so that your users or you yourself can kind of create like these personalized dashboards if you wish. And let me see. I would say last but not the least is let's talk about mass actions that have also come out recently. So
Sorry,
mass actions.
regarding
Yes.
the actions that we were just talking about, the configure actions, that doesn't get written to the dataset XMD, right? It's in the at the dashboard level and can be seen only at in the dashboard XMD, or do you see it in JSON?
You're correct in that it's only at the dashboard level. So it's in the asset XMD for the technically curious, and it's not written back to the dataset XMD. If you do have actions on both, let's say you have actions in the same field in both the dataset and the dashboard one takes precedence.
Perfect.
And moving on to the last piece here, which is mass actions. So in mass actions, what we've now done is we allow you to kind of take a link widget, and you can choose to trigger, you can kind of tie it to like a query. Like in this example, let's say you've done some analysis on your dashboard, you've found out like not just one opportunity, maybe there are 10 opportunities, 10 cases that you need to update or you need to do some action on. Rather than having to go through each one and open the record, or take an action individually, what you can do is you can now take actions on all of the records that are shown in a particular query. So in this example, I have configured mass actions to be able to change the owner. And what it does is it can take action on up to 100 records. So, and how you do this is by leveraging the link widget. What we've done is added an option to be able to link to a mass action. So link widget was of course used to link to a saved lens or more for navigation, but now it can also be used for actionability. And how it works is you of course say mass action, but you also tie it to the query that you want to affect. And once you do that, you can also determine the action column. You select, what's the ID column. It has to have an ID column so that it can know to disambiguate and reach out to all these records. But from there, you can kind of just choose all the Salesforce actions that you'd like. So using this, you can now take actions on multiple records at the same time. And I said last, yeah.
It works in the community, my usual question.
I am not 100% sure, so I got to get back to you on that, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. And last but not least, actually, very, very quickly, another thing we have is actually called bulk actions. And this I just mentioned very briefly, which is bulk actions basically allows you to also take actions on all the records in that query. Right now, that query is visualized as a table, so it's on a table. But the difference between bulk actions and mass actions is that with bulk actions, you're actually calling a specific visual post page. You're actually creating a special visual post page. And in that, you can actually, what happens is we just pass in all of this data into that page. So it's used to maybe, create more complex actions. You get access to all of that data so you can do what you want with it. Maybe you want to do some massaging. Maybe you want to kick off multiple actions as part of a flow. You can do all of that. It does require some coding. But you can also get more complex use cases done with this. So this is bulk actions. What I showed you is mass actions. I also showed you how you can continue to do record actions, but you can continue to do it faster with just a single click. And I showed you how you can configure this at the dataset level or at the asset level. So those are like kind of like a summary of everything that's happening with actions in the last few releases.
Perfect. There are two questions coming up. The first one is from Evan. What other mass actions can one perform? And Krishna is asking, can we apply filters to mass actions?
For mass actions, I got to look up at the Salesforce help page. I believe in there it said, let's see, it says all the Salesforce actions here that's available. But I think one of them, the mass action, of course, has to be defined and what do you call it? Enabled in the search layout, I believe, in the search layout of that object. But definitely things like creating a different set of records or updating certain fields, that should be possible. Other than that, I got to refer you to the documentation.
Great.
I'm not sure if Arthur or Ed has any other inputs, but yeah. All right, cool.
So moving on, the next question is for Arthur. So we looked at how the dashboard actions work. Can you talk more about the components, the maintainability, the usability of the components? And I know you guys came up with some great ideas behind that. So
Sure. So I'll share my screen and I'll do a quick demo, but right before diving into it, there are two reasons why we build components. So if you've not heard or seen components before, I'll do the demo right after. And so the idea is it's a new widget type, and we built it to answer two main use cases, and we're sure that it will open up a lot more. But the first one is reusability and maintainability. And so the idea was today, when you build dashboards for your company, there are most likely elements that you end up reusing across those dashboards, right? So you could think of a list of your like a filter header. You can think of the company logo with a very important KPI that you want to always have at the top of your dashboards. So there's a pretty high chance this is happening, and we've seen it in a lot of customer dashboards. And so the second part of it is maintainability. And so being able to have something that you build once, and then you're able to update in one central place, and the updates gets carried over to all the dashboards where those elements are built. So let me actually share my screen and let me know when that has come up.
we can see your screen.
Can you see it? Okay, cool. Let me make this a bit smaller. Okay, so as I was just telling you guys, components are a new widget type. And actually, I didn't dive into the second use case, my bad. The second use case is around rich interactions. And I'll show you what I mean by this, but really quickly is what you were before able to do with pages, or having this ability to hide and show more details, or create those interactions between dashboards where you're able to do like deeper dive on more details about the data, and expand the knowledge or the experience for users to go and learn more, right? And so I'll show you kind of what I mean by this. So components are a new widget type that you drag and drop like any others, and you have two things you can do with components when you first open it. You have the ability to either create a new one or reuse an existing one. So here you see there's a whole list of components that have been built. So for the purpose of the demo, I'll just create a new one, and it's a bit slow, so bear with me. And so what this did is it actually opened up a new tab. And so you see that now we're not in the dashboard designer, but we are in the component designer. And so the experience must look very familiar because we've done our best to keep it almost the same as the dashboard building experience, in the way that we foresee components being kind of a new type of mini dashboards that you can reuse, right? And so like any dashboard, you can drag and drop your widgets. You're able to like make it as beautiful as you want. There's we tried to bring feature parity with components, and so almost every feature that you're having dashboards are present in components. So all the widgets you can write bindings inside of it. So it really is pretty much the same experience. And so here, let's say just build component demo, and then I'll add a chart. Let's do something very simple. I'll just add a quick grouping. My great internet connection is not helping right now. Oh, you can do this, come on. Oh. Okay, good. All So that worked. Let me try to do product category. Let's do this. All right, so I've built my chart. And so one thing to keep in mind, and this is something that we know we can improve, but just to keep in mind is when you build your component, right now I'm using the whole width of the component. Let's say that I decided to make it half the width of it and make some space. When I save this component and embed it into my dashboard, it's going to proportionally adapt to the width of the component I built. So I'll quickly show you component demo. So let's save this guy, and I'll go back to my dashboard components. And so here, if I want to reuse it, I simply click inside of it, select it, and now it appears. And so what I was telling you here is that because I made the chart have the width of the component inside of the component designer, now when I embed it inside of my dashboard, it's respecting this. And so you can see that the component is whatever size I make it, the chart will be half the width of the component. So that's around reusability. I'll show you what I mean by how easy it is to reuse your components across dashboards. So I've just created a new dashboard here. I drag and drop my component, and let's say that I want to add the new component demo. So actually, right here, I select it, and that's it. And so it's really easy, it's really fast. And let's say that for whatever reason, I want to edit this component because I'm building a new dashboard, but the data has slightly changed, or I want to change the title of the component. I go here and click on edit, and oh, it's because I haven't saved this one, new dashboard demo. Let me save this. There's something I want to quickly show. So when you edit this guy, there's a model that should be coming up, and here it is. And so what this model tells you is that it shows you all the list of the dashboards that the component is used in. So here in this case, it's just using the new dashboard demo. I haven't actually saved it as part of the dashboard components first tab, which is why it's not showing. But let's actually demo this. So here, if I save it and go edit back, it will appear in both. Oh man. You can do it.
So Arthur, while this is loading,
Yep.
Quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I saw dashboard components and lightning components when you're clicking on components. So what's the lightning?
That's a very good question. So right now you're seeing it because we've enabled it in this org. It's actually a pilot going on. So there's a different team, the eds team actually, who's working on this pilot, which is providing the ability. So just let me show everyone what you meant. So if I bring back a component here, like I click, you see dashboard components and you see lightning components. And so what this does is it actually allows you, for those of you who are familiar with it, with the Lightning Web Components, which are components that you can build inside of the Lightning platform and embed inside of your Lightning pages using code. Well, you can, through using this pilot, what we're trying to do is embedding those Lightning Web Components inside of Tableau CRM. And a couple of reasons. One, and the biggest one is because there are use cases and things that you're capable of building through Lightning Web Components that don't exist today in Tableau CRM, or they're not that easy to achieve, right? And so two really good examples of this are the hierarchy widget, which is it's not something we have. There's no hierarchy widget in our dashboard builder, and this is something we very often hear. There is a way to achieve it. There are a couple ways to achieve it, but it's not straightforward. And so we've seen some of our customers actually build those custom Lightning Web Components and building this hierarchy, right? And so what we wanted is provide an easy way to embed those inside of Tableau CRM experience. So that's kind of answer your question.
Awesome. Never thought that lightning components are going to come into Tableau CRM.
Yep. Well, so right now we're piloting it, but if any of you guys are interested, please reach out to us, to Santani, myself, Ed here, or even Anirudh, and we'll work with you guys to see. But we're currently in the process of enabling people and communicating even internally on how to use this and what are the capabilities it has. So it's brand new. So if I go back into this add-in mode, now you can see it appears in both dashboards, and I have two possibilities. I can either edit the original, which is what I want to do here, so that my changes are carried over in both of those dashboards. And you can always make a copy if you prefer to have like a separate version of it. So here, if I edit this guy, and let's just make it a components demo for Chicago Meetup, and let's make this nicer and center it. And I save it. And if I go back to my dashboard here, and I hit the refresh content button, when you select the component, you have this button right there under the edit. You'll see that now the title has been centered and is updated, right? So one quick thing that I mentioned before, because I've heard this question, is you won't have to go refresh the content and press this button for every dashboard that you have. Where the component appears, like if you refresh the dashboard, or if you haven't opened it and you open it, it will be updated. This button is only if you want to see the update as you're continuing to edit the dashboard. All right, so moving on to the next question. Go ahead.
Ludmila has a question. But can filter lightning component based on TCRM component and vice versa? So she's asking if the lightning component can be filtered based on the dashboard data and vice versa. Lightning
web components?
Yes.
Yes, you can create bindings between. So the way we do it is, and I might not have it all like fully right because I'm still learning about it as well. But what I've understood is that we were converting the data when you're bringing this Lightning Web component so that you're able to bind to it. So you're able, we've seen a really cool demo about the hierarchy widget where we were able to link a Lightning Web component to the data inside of Tableau CRM and therefore filtering using the hierarchy widgets the rest of the dashboard, right? So using bindings, it's possible.
Awesome.
All right, so onto the page navigation. So what I've done here is you see my dashboard has a set of pages, but the component does as well. And so this is something that came back very often is as we try to build those hide and shows interactions, the ability to dynamically change groupings, measures, or chart types is something that we were able to do using bindings before. You're now able to, or you could do it using bindings or pages, but if you use pages, the main issue is we have this 20-page hard limit. And so we didn't truly add more pages to the limit, but what we've done is we've added the ability to have pages inside of components. So if I go back to my component editor here, you can add pages the same way you were doing it for your dashboard, right? And so here I've done it. And so the very quick use case that I want to demonstrate is I'm looking at the same data here. The query powering those different charts that you'll see is the same. What I've done is I've simply changed how it looks or the grouping and the measure that it's filtered by, right? So here I'm looking at accounts per country. If I change to the world map view, you would actually be seeing it if it wants to load it. Perfect. The same data, but instead of showing it as a bar chart, you're now looking at the map. And you can do all sorts of creative things, right? And this was achievable using bindings or using the pages, but you would quickly run out of them. So we've made it simpler using components pages to have those rich interactions at a localized place inside of your dashboards. So here I've grouped by industry, looking at the data. And lastly, you can change, like you've seen, you can change the chart type. Here I'm looking at even a new one, looking at the evolution of those accounts per years. So this is for more rich interactions that you're able to create using those components pages.
I'm already in love with this.
So it's coming out this release in spring 21, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's GA. It's generally available to you guys. We would love your feedback on the feature, and as we're planning to spend more time working on it and improve it as much as we can. So all your feedback is welcome. Please reach out through the community as you use it. There are some things that we are currently improving to improve the experience. There are some features that like we want to make sure we support as part of components and things that we're seeing. But yeah, super excited about it. Here's another example of some reusable cards that you can build that you could imagine being present on multiple of your dashboards with like an important KPI, the evolution of your revenue across 2022. And I can just go to another dashboard and say, hey, let me bring those cards because they look lovely. I really want to have them here. And what about just adding the revenue card component? And it's that easy, right? And if I want to modify the title, I can just go edit the card. It's very simple, and the changes will get carried across all the dashboards where this element is, right? So making this reusability, maintainability aspect much easier. And so to share a bit more about the future, so you saw already the Lightning Web Components palette we're working on. You can imagine we're thinking of other ways of, you can imagine Tableau is an idea we're playing around, being able to bring Tableau visits inside of TCRM, but we're also like actively listening to the feedback from you guys on like what are other things you guys are going to be using this for, right? What are some doors that it will open that we haven't even thought of, but just like building new things in new ways. I think a bit later on in the presentation we'll probably talk about tooltips. So I won't share too much there because I want to let Anirudh talk about it. But components is another. It's another place where components could be used. So it will open up a lot of doors. We're thinking of more ways, being more creative around like how could those components be used in the futures, and we're thinking about like, you know, those app templates that we have, using components as part of the templates, and just have like this components gallery where you're able to pick from and choose the different components that you want to embed to fast start your building journey of dashboards. So yeah, just a lot of ideas, and all your ideas are welcome. We love your feedback about this feature. We're very excited to have finally built it, and we would love to know more about how you use it and all the creative use cases you're solving with it.
So 2 use cases that come to my mind when I'm looking at components, and I know we are almost already, and we have still a few more questions to go through. But the first question is, can we just build a component out of global filters and apply it to all dashboards?
And so can you repeat that? I want to make sure I understood it. It's about global filters, but can you repeat?
Global filters. It has nothing but just global filters. So the use case is some of us use data sets on multiple dashboards, right? But that data set has similar global filter all through.
Yeah.
So what if we don't need any charts or anything? We just have a component for global filter.
Yeah. So you could imagine doing that, right? So here, so there is one thing I'll definitely share it now, because so the use case of how to filter, we have an issue with filters and that we're fixing right now. But what I will show you is something where, let's say that I have this component, and so I'm on the second page here. Let's not do this. Let's have, sorry, I'm going to add a global filter here as part of the component.
Mm-hmm.
And let's do something very simple. Let's do product category and add it, save it. And so we're in the Wave PM, so I'm not sure if it has the latest changes, but we'll try at least. Demo, where did it go? Wait, new component. Demo. This disappeared. How come? Did this not save?
So Arthur, while you're doing this.
But so what I want to see, yep.
Yeah, Stuart has written, All of these updates are making Tableau CRM such a powerful product that enterprises would be at a loss not to use it, not just an analytics tool. I agree. This is taking it to a different level that didn't exist.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
That really warms up. I'm gonna like save this chat transcript as well so that I can look at it. That would be good. Yes, thank you. Thank you for the feedback.
I'm not sure why. So I'm having an issue. Let me try and get rid of this guy. But so what I wanted to show is that we're now actually providing inside of the global filter, you have the ability to show like multiple, you have two sections where we're showing not only components, but also, and so there, for some reason, I'm not sure what's going on. It's not displaying my new components. It doesn't want to appear here. Whatever, it's fine.
But we get
yeah, and so you have like a new section where you're able to display both the components global filters and as well as the dashboard global filters, and so you're able to see like which ones are coming from where. When you click over here, it will have to. I mean, actually, interesting. So don't ask me why. Oh, maybe I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because it's already used here. Yeah, that might be why. I was having an issue with it and it wasn't showing. So if I refresh the content, you can see that, yeah, that's why. So I'll investigate further on this, but what I wanted to show you is this. Here, if I do like state province, so on my dashboard, I have like two global filters, right? And if I had a chart here, the faceting works and the filtering works between elements coming inside of the dashboards and outside of, and then within, between the component and the dashboard. So here I'm able to do like filters on the data. It would change, it will facet, it will apply. And so if you look here, as I was showing to you, you have two tabs now showing you your global filters for dashboards and one for components.
Awesome. That helps a lot.
Arthur, and Arthur, can I add just a few thoughts here? This is inspired by when you mentioned, what doors this opens up. And two other ideas. Again, these are hypotheses. It has to be ultimately validated by the community. And reusability of these common pieces across maybe a bunch of dashboards is definitely awesome. And what I'm thinking of two other ideas that might be possible is, I call these, I've seen dynamic measures, dynamic groupings, very common on many dashboards where you have maybe like a toggle widget toggling between what the chart is showing. And I've also seen examples where you kind of want to have these localized interactions, or you want a part of your dashboard to be dynamic. So until now, you had to create a whole new dashboard level page to do that when you wanted to toggle between some of these states. For the dynamic measures and groups, you had to use bindings to do that. So I'm thinking if you have a simple enough use case, maybe you just want to either sort a few fields up, descending, ascending. Make kind of like, how right now if you have like let's say you have a table at the bottom and you have a toggle widget above your table, which says sort ascending, descending. And users have to click between it, and then you have to propagate it using bindings. You could possibly use a component. The component is not necessarily being reused on multiple dashboards. It's maybe only going to be used on that dashboard. We can still have a component with multiple pages, and each page represents a different state that you want to present to your user. So you could have like a toggle widget, and one page is showing, one field ascending and the other field descending. And the advantage is that without bindings, it makes it more maintainable, because with bindings you cannot open it up in Explorer. You then have to use the advanced editor to do any of the query stuff.
And not everyone is used to interactions, right?
Yeah. So just thinking out loud, which is localized, dynamic pieces within a dashboard, even if they're not being reused across multiple dashboards.
That's already the kind of thing that I'm going to do with this. So a lot more to come about things, and you'll at least hear me and Jennifer talking about what else we need from components. We are at 3 o'clock, so I will be moving a little faster, but Arthur, this is out of the world. This is too good. The next one also I'll ask Arthur. It is about dynamic text widgets. We know rich text widgets. Is number also coming in?
So do you mean Like a dynamic number widget? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
So not really the way, and I'll explain my reasoning. So text and number are the two most used widgets across all dashboards. And so what we wanted to do is like we wanted to bring the dynamic ability, the dynamic data to the text widget to kind of combine the usage. And the vision for this is to be able to create those rich content inside of the text, right? So you have now the ability to provide descriptive, but also kind of dynamic elements can be part of your text. And so those can be changing based on the selection, the filtering you make across your dashboard. And we want to take it even a step further with what we're currently building, which is the rich text editor. And the vision for this is, I'm not sure how much of you guys are familiar with it, but if you search it on the internet, it's the idea of those, you know, how we built Einstein Discovery stories, and as like those text like blocks where you have the different reasons why certain KPIs are behaving the way they are, and what are some of the things you can do to improve or change the trends that they will be taking in the future. So you usually have like this brief description with the bullet points on like the key aspects of it, and some words will be highlighted, some of them are dynamic, some of them are colored. So that's really what our visions was when we were building this and improving this text widgets. And so right now we made it dynamic, and now we want to make it much more stylable with the rich text editor. So you're gonna be able to add font weight, so bold, italic, underline. You're gonna be able to change whether like the centering, as you can do. You'll be able to add color, whether it is like background or the whole text color will be styled as well. And you'll be able to choose like which words or even which letters of the text, right? It's not going to be the same way it currently is, where it's an all or nothing capability. You'll now really have a much finer control on how you want to style your text. And all of that will be doable with your dynamic data being integrated inside of your text as well. So pretty excited about it. This is something that I've been hearing literally since I've joined Salesforce, and I'm sure this is a customer request that has been here for a long time. So pretty exciting stuff. So yeah.
Anirudh, next one is for you. We do know, I think we have been hearing about advanced tables, and I know I'm one of the persons who has been requesting text wrapping and freeze, unfreeze, reorder the columns, everything. So do you want to tell us how to do that better, or if Salesforce is thinking of coming up with better ways of doing things that, well, I'm going to take the example of Excel. It's easy to do in Excel.
Right. Yeah. I think Excel is definitely very, optimized for when you're looking at a grid of data and, cells and columns. And of course, you want that flexibility where you're pretty much be able to do everything at a cell-by-cell level.
Mm-hmm.
For tables, of course, for Tableau CRM, tables continues to remain an important area. It is, of course, a very important visualization that we have seen being used by customers. So there's definitely, we have a solid roadmap. We spent around 2 releases making a bunch of enhancements to our tables, and we have more coming up. So what I'll do is, let me just share what we have so far in the last couple of releases, just so that I point that out. And then I'll also maybe talk a little bit about the roadmap. I don't have a slide, unfortunately, but I'll just talk to, and it kind of includes some of the items you mentioned. And there's one thing I want to do is to get some live feedback here, right here. So, okay. So tables, of course, I already spoke about how you can do those one-click actions on tables.
Mm-hmm.
The next one that I want to talk about is the ability to now freeze and unfreeze columns. You can now do that on your tables. You can choose how many columns are frozen or unfrozen. So for example, if I have a values table with a wide values table, it's sometimes nice to be able to just freeze one of these columns so that you always have context about what record you're looking at. So I've already frozen this column here, but your end users can actually decide right from the dashboard if they want to unfreeze. So your end user can choose if they want to freeze a few more columns, or they can just unfreeze all. So that's one of the things we have done with this feature is started to definitely include what it means for your end user, provide that flexibility for them.
Mm-hmm.
And for the dashboard author, what this means for you is that you can choose to control the default number of frozen and unfrozen columns from a dashboard level. So as an author, you can choose if you want to have maybe everything unfrozen or not. And when you persist it to your dashboard, that's what all your end users will see when they load up the dashboard. But we'd still give them the flexibility to modify that. One call out I'll make, especially for our advanced users, is that you can do this from the UI, from the table header right here, but we also allow you to modify that from this section. The layout section has been added. Now, why would you want to do this versus something here? One example is if you have bindings on a table, you can't open that up in Explore. So then you can't, of course, set it with this UI. But table properties can be exposed in dashboard. So if, let's leave this, I can actually go directly from a dashboard and I can choose to control the number of frozen columns. So that's just one of the reasons why we added it to this section as well, and not just the table header. Again, I spoke about freeze, unfreeze. Let's go to expand, collapse. And an interesting fact that as we were thinking about this feature is it was more valuable for customers to be able to unfreeze a column rather than freeze a column, because in compare tables, when you add multiple groupings, by default, they're all fixed. So what happens is, let's say if I had a compare table with 2 groups, those columns would be fixed. And now you have almost no space left for your other columns to use. So what you can now do is, if you're building a compare table, you can just choose to unfreeze more columns. And you can do this while you're authoring as well.
Well, I would have thought people are freezing more columns than unfreezing, but good to know.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely heard unfreeze a lot as well, just because the workaround to do this in the past has been you have to switch to a custom SACL query,
Correct.
and then you have to override the group string so that it'll become unfrozen. But now, yeah, you don't have to change it to SACL just to get you unfrozen columns.
Yep.
What we also added was expand, collapse. So again, straightforward enough. If you're kind of you want to have your tables present multiple data at different levels. In this example, I have sum of sales broken down by region, subcategory, and category. And you're kind of seeing it at the grain of region, but let's say you want to roll it up, you can kind of expand and collapse the grain dynamically at runtime. So now you can even start off with a very high level overview of product category, break it down to subcategory, and then break it down all the way to region. Again, for the technically curious, we are leveraging subtotals in the background. So as you can see, subtotals is turned on, and that is a requirement for this feature. Subtotal is turned on. And as you collapse, we kind of show you the rolled up versions. And now you'll start seeing subtotals for the end across all of these for this category. And then finally, at the very top. And you can, again, control the default drill level that you have. If you, as an author, you want to provide maybe a full overview, you start off at this level. That's what your end users will see, and then they can choose to drill down.
This is great.
And so talking a little bit, so again, we made some improvements to pivot tables 2-3 releases ago, but talking more forward looking, again, there's a lot of features that have been asked. All of them are, actually incredible. Will make the experience incredibly better. But really, the top of mind, what we have right now, and feel free to give me feedback on this. I'm sure that maybe you have some other features that are also important to you. So we want to make sure that we have all of that captured. But what you're seeing on an aggregated level is table column resizing, being able to resize your columns, and having text wrapping is something that I'm hearing quite often. I think I saw Sayantani's post and Pete Lyon's post as well on the success community just today. Like we don't have real text wrapping yet. We kind of have like a number of lines to show, but what we want to do is also add text wrapping capabilities. Other things on the roadmap include things like pivot tables, making enhancement to pivot tables, multiple pivot table groupings, etc. So that was there. Send me, maybe just mention in chat if there are other things in tables that you'd like. We have really a lot of other things in that pipeline, being able to search through tables, being able to format your headers,
You can search
all of
through
that.
tables.
I mean, no, it's on the roadmap, but for example, our lightning reports in those tables, you can actually just search through it. So let's say you filtered something and you got a list like 100 accounts, and you're like just wondering, hey, is my account in there or not? So rather than like having to filter for that account, which kind of just filters your entire dashboard, you can just search through that table saying that I'm curious if that account is in my list or not.
Okay.
So kind of like a localized search.
I guess everyone who's going to hear this even later, everyone's life so much more easier.
And what I want to do now is really, because I do have a resize columns top of mind, Tableau CRM tables allows you to do 3 things. This will be very quick. So let me ask you this question. I here have a table. The table has been configured as fit to widget. So it will automatically fit to the widget width. My question is, if a user resizes a column, let's say if I drag account ID to the right or left, what do you expect should happen? How would you think it should be resized? Just keep in mind that the configuration is fit to widget originally.
Well, the column on the right is going to increase in size. Others who have ideas, you can just post on chat.
Yeah. And what we're hearing is basically, do you still want it to be fit to widget? And that means that we'll have to just, equally take away from all of the other columns. We kind of have all of these columns shrinking, all of these columns maybe increasing. Or really, did you just want this column to increase in size, and what happens to the others?
I think since it's fit to widget, it should maintain that, right? And just move everything else a little smaller.
Got it. I think that's what I wanted to confirm is, do you prefer that we continue to maintain fit to widget, or like do you think, okay, if an end user has done this, then it will no longer be fit to widget. It may have a scroll bar here, but at the very least, it'll make sure that that column will be the size that the end user decided when they drop.
Yeah, I think the others are not so much necessary. Okay, Prabhat said it should take away some from others except adjusted columns.
Okay, so take some from other, except the column that was adjusted, except the columns that may have been adjusted. Okay.
Yep, that makes sense.
All right, cool. Thank you. Yeah, just trying to get some idea. So anyways, I just want to get that quick feedback as we think through this. We're hoping to have something, more progress on tables in the next 2 releases or so. All right, so that's all I had sent on tables.
Thank you. Arthur, advanced editors. We were talking about advanced tables. The next one, of course, is advanced editors, which comes to mind, anyone's mind right now. No more bindings, writing everything down, double curly brackets. The question of why a curly bracket even exists. And Arthur, if you're speaking, we cannot hear you.
Sorry, I was muted. All right, you guys can hear me now, right?
Yes.
All right, cool. So let me share my screen and kind of share a little bit of background about why we've built this advanced editor. So depending on how you're familiar with our product, if you're just learning about it, what we've been doing is trying to make it as easy as possible to use and to create these awesome looking dashboards. But if you've been using the product for some time, there's a really good chance that you're very familiar with bindings. And so build bindings is kind of what we qualify as a more advanced to create those interactions between the different widgets or queries that you're able to create to create. And while we know it's more advanced, and while we're trying to make it more to make it easier to use our product and to create those rich interactions, we said to ourselves, well, what about just create a tool that allows you to much more easily create those bindings, which is exactly what we've done with the advanced interaction editor. So you're able to access this tool through 2 different places. When you select a widget or query, you're able to access it through the widget actions here at the bottom, or just looking at the right panel through this button. And so what I'm going to show you here, and I've actually already built it, but I'll show you how I have, is I've this toggle widget, a text widget, and I want to display our biggest sales this year happen in whatever country, right? And as I toggle through this widget, I'm able to display which country this was. So this is a very basic example. I just wanted to quickly demonstrate it. So if you go to the advanced editor for the text widget here, you see the binding I've created and I've put into the content section. And I'll kind of show you how I've done this. So the first thing you will want to do is actually look into the source query that you want to select. So here we're using a custom query that I have built. So you have the list of your queries and you can actually preview them and have a visualization of what they look like. So here I have my list of countries. So looking good, you've selected the query. Now you want to select the data as inside of the query. So in this case, I would just want to sell, and I want the first cell to be displayed. So, and as you're building this, you can see that the created interaction is appearing here in your screen. So let's say that I want the row index 0 and I want the column country. In this case, there's only one column. So I've selected my query, selected the data powering inside of the query, and now you have the ability to choose whether you want the interaction type to be a result or a selection. This is something that you might not know what it is, and so we've added this information bubbles here to let you know, like, is it based on the entire result of the query, or do you want it to be based on the selection that you'll be making on the widget, right? And so in this case, I want it to be a selection on my toggle widget that will be prompting the text widget. And so the last thing I want to do here that I have added, I think I can hear some echo. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you. And so the last thing I've done here is, because I've made this a selection, when there's no selection made, you will have a state where nothing is displayed, right? And so if you want to have this kind of default state to create, you can do so by setting a default value and kind of entering whatever you want here. So what I've done here is I've said our biggest sales this year happen in this country. And so that's what I've created. So if you look at there, you have your call s, and then you have your cell country static query 1 selection, and then the country, and then you have the string. And that's it. And so now you're able to create those bindings inside of the advanced editor, where we know, like, this is only a step forward to help you build it. And I'm sure, like, it will not, like, solve the whole issue. Like, bindings are complex, right? You need to be familiar with it and spend time, like, learning how they work. And but we really wanted to have this one place where, you know, like, it's a bit easier. We have this things that helps you, like, with different modules and take it like a step at a time. You're also able to look at a video that will tell you a bit more about how it works and what you're supposed to do at each step. So yeah, that's pretty much the advanced editor and what we were trying to do with it.
So,
and if you have any feedback, one last thing, if you have any feedback around it or things that you're already seeing, because it's been out for some time, and improvements that you like to see, we'd love to know more about it. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you, Arthur. Anirudh, there are 2 excellent things that came out in the last release. The first one is SQL versus SQL versus direct queries or SOQL. So do you want to tell why we added SQL to this?
Yeah, so basically there are 2 things that are using SQL, and apologies for any background noise you'll hear. The kids are just back home. But basically, we have, as part of our direct initiative, we are able to now create queries on Snowflake. So you can kind of have a query on a dashboard that directly reaches out to Snowflake, and this is what we call Snowflake Direct. So Snowflake, of course, what we're allowing you to do is query it using SQL. So that's one area where SQL is used. What we're also exploring right now, actually, this is currently in pilot, I believe. Yes, it's in pilot, which is the ability to use custom SQL to query your Tableau CRM data sets. And again, we understand and realize that there are a lot of folks who are conversant with SQL, more comfortable with SQL, and they want to, we want to also make it easy for teams to be able to maintain these dashboards as resources change and are handed over. So folks coming in might be more comfortable with SQL. So that's why we want to allow you to query or write custom queries. When you go to the query editor mode, you should be able to use SQL to do that. And what's really happening is the query engine team is kind of working on getting that to parity. The most important piece is getting into parity with what's possible in SQL. And on the UI side, we're building all the pieces to make sure that you have a good experience. So when it comes to SQL, that's the strategy that we are using. For direct, again, what we're doing is, as Tableau CRM as a platform, right? We want to be able to address all of your business use cases as much as possible. So what we are hearing is, hey, I have CRM data that I'm currently using in my dashboards, but more and more so, all of my data is not in CRM. I have data that's sitting outside. So for example, this could be orders or inventory information that's sitting outside. And it would be really useful for my CRM users as they're using and consuming these dashboards to be able to access that data as well. So that's where we decided to allow you to kind of build these pieces that allow you to query Snowflake. We also allow you to query Salesforce directly. So all of those queries are live at the time their dashboard is loaded. And it also helps us tackle some of the other use cases that customers have told us, which is, hey, this is great. I want to do analysis, but I kind of want to blend the analytical with the operational in the same dashboard. So analytical is where maybe I'm looking at historical data, lots of data, large volumes of data, but eventually if, let's say, the actions are happening on a specific record, maybe it's like happening at the actual opportunity level. So what a live query can now enable you to do is to see that live representation on your asset, take action on it. And once you've taken an action, if you refresh your dashboard, you should be able to now see the updated value. So we're trying to have more ways for your users that once they take an action, for you to actually see a very live representation of what that is. So that's just kind of, very high level strategic goals that we're thinking about, the use cases.
So in short, creating Salesforce report in Tableau CRM without actually creating them.
Without actually creating it, yes. And again, we are definitely looking for feedback in that. How would folks be architecting this? Are they looking to like architect, maybe they want to have both together in the same dashboard, like a hybrid dashboard, and they want it seamless to behave with each other? And maybe what I'll do is, let me do a really quick demo here. I already have this, and I showed this for one of the other features, but a very quick example is, if you see my screen, which is I've kind of modified our revenue operations app. And just for demo purposes, I've kind of juxtaposed these two tables side by side. One is coming from a Tableau CRM data set, and other is from directly querying Salesforce Live. And as you can see, the opportunities are aligned between both tables. And what I mean by we want to make it seamless for you to operate this hybrid manner is, on this right, you'll have a single set of filter pills that you can use to filter both your data that's maybe coming from Tableau CRM. So all of these will be reflected, but at the same time, you also want this data to be filtered correctly. We don't want our users to create like two sets of filter pills, one for live data, one for Tableau CRM data. So if I show you an example, I'm going to just go and change the opportunity type here. And if I hit apply, you'll see both are now reflected. You saw some changes here, you saw some changes here. So that's why we're trying to make this seamless. And now I can actually take actions on this. I can do something like update this opportunity. And let me go and change the amount right here, hit save. And in a Tableau CRM dataset, it would take, it'll be reflected when the data flow runs. In a live query, it's not currently reflected yet, but the moment I kind of like refresh this dashboard, it should get reflected. I wonder if I can trigger a refresh by doing that. There you go. Just by like resetting, I was able to just trigger this refresh, but as you can see, it's been updated right away.
Great.
So that was direct query.
Yep, that's a very, very useful function, especially when you are coming to the end of the year or end of the quarter. Those reports, these are extremely useful. Okay, moving on. Arthur, is there any way of high-level summary data, and then you click on it, and then it takes you to a detailed view? Is there anything on that coming up anytime soon?
Kind of, and I see what you're talking about. And so this is an idea we've been playing around with, and having the ability to have an overview or a way of displaying your data where it repeats over like a theme, or you have your information, which is you might have like an image, some descriptive text about, you can imagine just a line of your table where you have like a column for an image, just some text, some data about like the region, or the amount of sales the agent has been doing, and just having the ability to repeat over this and get a summary detail of your data, and understand like what it is, but in a different manner of tables, right? And so the idea we have behind this, and it came up from a hackathon we did, is this repeater widget. And let me actually share quickly my screen and kind of show you some preliminary designs for it. So it should be coming up. And so the idea is you're able to use information coming from a query where you could have an image, some text, and you end up building this card where you have the name of the agent, his region, some KPI, and how far he's reached on his goal. And because you can imagine it's a table and you have rows of data repeating the same information, you would be able to consume and create something like this, right? Where you just repeat over the different lines of your queries, but just showing every line and all the information in a different manner, where you're able to get like a quick overview, and then you'll be able to dive deeper into those, potentially using like, a different page or link inside of those guys. You could have like a link that take you to another dashboard or detail page. And so you can play around with different layouts, like whatever way you want to be displaying it, whether it's like vertically or horizontally. And so, yeah, that's something we're currently thinking of and kind of seeing how it could be implemented. So it's part of our vision and something we want to achieve, but it'll take us a bit of time before we get there.
Okay, that makes sense, but that is a great development. Talking about the high-level summary data and then looking at detailed views, Anirudh, you guys came up with tooltips. Awesome-looking tooltips. Can you expand?
Yes. I will definitely expand upon that on Awesome Look Tooltip by simply hovering over something. So what we did in Spring 21 is allow you to start customizing your tooltip. So again, the simplest use case that our customers have told us is, hey, I wish, let's say on a number widget, I wish I could provide some onboarding, KPI definition, etc. So Spring 21, you should be able to start adding custom text to these tooltips as you hover over it. This is not rich text yet. We have some that is in the works, but you can at least, it supports new lines. So you can start adding multi-line text, breaking it up into paragraphs if needed. So custom text is one, but what if you could now hover over a KPI and provide a breakdown of what that KPI is? And this is what I call putting a magnifying lens to an insight. Whereas versus pages, if you use pages to like present much more detail around this, I call it putting like an insight under a microscope. This is more like just a quick look for your end user. They just want to see a quick breakdown, and I can now do that with a chart in a tooltip. But it's not just limited to charts. You can also put a table in a tooltip. So I'm looking at my commit numbers and I'm wondering what are my top 5 opportunities that are driving these numbers. So I hover over, I don't have to go to a different page. I can simply access that here. But now these tooltips are not just static. I can actually go into it and start interacting. And for example, here I do have record actions enabled with one-click action. So I can actually, with a simple click, just go into that record all from within the tooltip. Now, just in the interest of time, I want to present what we are thinking forward-looking. So what we want to get to next is, it was on numbers, but what if you could do this on charts and tables? So imagine if I could hover over a chart and it showed me a tooltip. Now, by extension, here you have multiple visualizations shown in a tooltip. But what if you could use maybe components to really provide the authors with the full flexibility of what they want to put in there? Imagine if I could have a component that I just created, which kind of shows like these KPI cards in a very minimalistic manner. We want to be careful of the real estate, but what if I could reveal that simply on hover? What if I could, in tables, I don't want to put all of the columns in my tables, but I do want some complementary information or supplementary information. So what if I could hover over one of these rows and it gives me a nice little card? This card has been constructed once as a component and it can be reused wherever you'd like. So those are some of the things that we're also thinking of, and we're going beyond just thinking of it as like a visualization in a tooltip, but kind of creating these rich content cards and elements.
Can we have this card view now?
I've actually started to build these pieces. So what I want to say is this is not very like smoke and mirrors, super North Starish. I've had our design team actually build these kind of cards with what we have in components today. And we are working on the pieces to like, show it or reveal it in all these places, like Arthur said.
Yep. And Priyanka says this is pretty cool. Very handy from Prabhat. Yes, of course. That's why we want everything now.
Awesome. That's good. Keeps us motivated for sure.
Okay, moving on, and I know we are mostly out of time, but since we have you guys here, what is there in the roadmap for Tableau CRM in general?
Oh, Tableau CRM in general. Oh, unfortunately, I don't have the slide here. And again, Tableau CRM, as you know, is we got pretty much, three main layers. We have the data platform layer. There's a lot of cool stuff and innovative stuff going on there with recipes and intelligent transformations. And then on the experience side, which is all about authoring, your dashboards and lenses, etc., visualizations. There's a lot of stuff going on there. Most of which you saw pieces of what we are doing. Arthur mentioned. And then finally in Einstein Discovery, there's a lot happening there as well with things like bring your own model, predict nodes, etc. Unfortunately, I don't have like a summary slide that kind of captures all of this. I can see if I can try to find one, but maybe we can either come back to that question or yeah, or I can see, yeah, if you can post it. You can ask any questions in the success community as well.
Okay, sure. So I'm going to open the floor. Anyone has questions for Anirudh and Sridhar? Feel free to start your mic, to unmute yourself and ask. Priyanka says she would love to learn more on the Einstein Discovery space. And Prabhat says, any plans on involving D3?
By D3, are you referencing the chart library
D3J.
or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's interesting in that with Lightning components, I have seen examples where you can use whatever library you'd like to make those charts. So I've seen folks using Chart.js to build Gantt charts, word clouds, etc. You could do it with D3 as well. Again, that whole feature is currently in pilot, but you should start seeing more resources around technical guides to like how would you maybe bring in a library, how would you do the faceting and the communication between a Lightning component. Those are some of the guides you'll see coming up in release or two.
Great. And more on Einstein Discovery space. What is coming in Einstein Discovery is what Priyanka wants to know.
Got it. I think Bobby's going to be our guy.
Yeah, we need to
Bobby
get
Brill for sure. Yeah, we need to get Bobby in here.
Yeah, we need to get Bobby in. Thank you so much, Arthur and Anirudh, for taking the time and engaging us in all about dashboards. And thank you everyone for joining. Any parting thoughts from anyone?
I just want to say, yeah, thank you for having us. This was great. And it's always been awesome. And I really appreciate the feedback and the time that you've taken. So that's one of the things I always enjoy is trying to put in some stuff to get quick feedback. And I think this is a great forum for that as well.
I can suggest something. So last time we had Antonio present. So what he did was after the meetup, he created a questionnaire, a form And we circulated it, and I think he got a good amount of feedback from that.
Awesome. That is awesome because correct. Hopefully, I've given you context of what we want to do, and the specifics I can put it in the questionnaire. That's the great idea. Thank
and
you.
Secondly, this will be circulated in the YouTube channel, right? So anyone looking at this can also give you feedback.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very great session. Very informative. Really great. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks everyone for your time. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys.
See you next time.
Appreciate it.